But on Valentine's Day in 1975, a tragic accident took his life.
He was killed doing something that only Jerry would do. He had a constituent meeting, I think, in Palm Springs, and he had one in San Bernardino. And he was flying this little plane, and he wanted to make both meetings, so he had to leave in the morning.
And I drove him out to the airport, and he went in to file his flight plan, and he came out and he said, you know, the weather isn't very good in the pass, but I think I can sneak under it, and I'll meet you in San Bernardino at the end of the day. He said, you go on, and he said, when I see you down below me, I'll tip my wings. And I, after a bit, heard a plane over me, and I realized it was flying very low, and I figured it was Jerry, and he flew over and tipped his wings. And within probably 5 minutes, I'm not sure what the time was, I had this just overwhelming feeling of dread and such a heaviness. I thought, something terrible has happened.
And he caught one of these terrible dust storms that we were accustomed to in Southern California. And he saw it up in front of him, and he turned his plane around, but it engulfed him before he could get out of the storm, and he was killed. It was a tragic thing.
But it was very, very difficult, and it was even worse to go home and tell my parents, because I had lost my first husband, and the idea of losing another one was just too much.
I'll tell you, he was a great man. I don't get teary-eyed about many politicians.
Memorial services were held on the campus of Loma Linda University at University Church.
The flag is at half-mast only in honor of Jerry Pettis.
Days after his death, his colleagues encouraged Mrs. Pettis to run for his seat.
Shirley had a tough campaign. I mean, there were a lot of people running against her, and one guy named Pettis ran against her. He had the name Pettis.
On April 6, 1975, the news reported that Shirley Pettis had a landslide victory.
When I was sworn in, I was the only one who was being sworn in because it was a special election.
She was the fifth woman from California to serve in the House of Representatives.
In the Capitol, there's an elevator that says members up above it, are members only. And I got in the elevator one day, and a very well-known, prestigious chairman of a committee was in the elevator with me, and he started up a conversation, and we visited. We didn't have long, but as I got off the elevator, he said, "Now, whose secretary did you say you were?"
But to many, she was well known in the House.
She had the best ankles in Washington. And we'd accuse her, Shirley. She'd bring this little three-legged stool. She'd sit on the aisle, and she'd put her foot on that three-legged stool. And we'd say, "Shirley, you're just showing off those ankles." And she'd laugh and claim that she wasn't, but she was just a joy. She was always happy, pleasant. She was like Jerry. She never said I never heard Shirley say a bad word against anybody.
She caught the attention of many colleagues, including fellow Republican President Ford, when he found out that she opposed the party's stance on the strip mining bill.
I said, "You know, I think you've had bad advice, Mr. President." When I think back on it now, it took a lot of guts on my part to say that.
One of the first projects Congresswoman Pettis decided to work on was to finish the California Desert Protection Bill that her husband started.
The Desert Protection Act was a monumental achievement, and what it has saved a good portion of California.
I had rushed over to the Senate to get one of the senators to take his objection away from one small part of it that was holding up the California Desert Protection Bill part, and I persuaded him, and I came back onto the floor of the House, and I realized that indeed we were going to have that bill after all Jerry's years of working on it and all of mine. And it was within about 5 minutes of the close of that Congress. Had we not gotten it through that night, I would have had to start all over in the new Congress.
The LA Times wrote an op-ed piece how the woman in red was able to pass her bill. They stated that it was the most monumental piece of land legislation in our era. The California Desert Protection Bill secured wilderness status for nearly 500,000 acres in Joshua Tree National Monument. While on the Committee of Interior and Insular Affairs, she played a significant role in environmental issues, winning federal funding for a cleanup of the Salton Sea, which was home to migratory birds, preserving the timber wolf, and bringing the first solar power plant in the nation to her district. During her second term in the House, she visited the Middle East often as a part of her seat on the International Affairs Committee. Under the Congresswoman's leadership, the VA hospital in Loma Linda was named in honor of her late husband. In 1977, it opened as the Jerry L. Pettis Memorial Veterans Administration Medical Center.
Our friendship, hopefully, has made a difference for the Inland Empire. Clearly, Jerry and Shirley Pettis made a big difference.
Congresswoman Pettis retired from the House in 1979 after choosing not to run for re-election. But the Pettis legacy of honor and service still lives on.
But I don't know anybody that was liked more by or respected more by their colleagues than Shirley and Jerry. They added something that I wish existed today. They added respect for others of differing views, and that is just essential to the legislative process. And she just kind of carried on his tradition, quiet, modest. The only difference was that she was absolutely gorgeous, beautiful. I think both of them have a sense, Shirley, of owing something back to the country.
I'm proud of the fact that I have been able to serve my country, and I really feel that way about service in the Congress. You are serving your country, and you give up a lot of private life, family life, but you also have the feeling that you're doing something that is lasting, hopefully, and is a gift that you can make as a person to a better life for your country.